Hey YouTube, coming at you with the Beyond the Hype one Ultra League team that I wanted to do just to test out sort of some of the new buff Pokemon. So Confusion got buffed, and for those of you who've been around on this channel know that I use Armored Mewtwo pretty much every season, and it's just a straight out buff here with Confusion. Confusion is just got buffed, so it's better to be used. That's just straightforward. Cresselia is the other one. Cresselia is kind of an interesting one because what Cresselia did in the past was it just charged super fast with Psycho Cut. So think Mewtwo in the Master League, where with Psycho Cut, you're just charging super fast and spamming moves. And that was what would happen with Crest. You charge super fast, and then had this Grass Knot Moonblast combo that was coming at like speeds of like 12, 14. Like it was just pretty fast on the charge to get to those moves. Now you're putting out a lot more fast move pressure with the Confusion, but slower to the charge move. So how does that play? We'll go over that. And then I initially started with Regidrago. I've already tested that in the Great League, so then I was like, okay, let's just do Corviknight because this team is not. I wouldn't run this team for starters. You're double Psychic, so you're double weak to Bug. I don't like Psychic as a typing because you're weak to Dark, Ghost, and Bug, and all are sort of like relevant now. So Corviknight can answer some of those, can answer the bugs. You know, for the Darks, you have Dynamic Punch on Mewtwo and the Moonblast on Cresselia, so you can get by. But like I ran into like multiple Runerigas and it's just like, okay, I'm screwed. So I don't use the team, but I just, again, wanted to test out to see how these feel. I used initially Corviknight on the lead with like double Psychic Confusion in the back, like safe swap one, draw something out. But then when I was using it, I like would draw out, like I used Crest and I drew out like Steel. So I'm like, why don't we just do ABA and kind of work our way through there? So then I put Mewtwo on the lead to deal after. But so this is one with... So you're going to see like 3 or 4 Corviknight leads and then 3 or 4 leads for Mewtwo. So on this one, Corviknight, and it is a dark Pokemon, which means we cannot have our Psychic Pokemon C. This is the perfect time to talk about Corviknight because I did mention that I wanted to talk about it with its Air Cutter. Now, is it a strong Pokemon? Yes. Again, we've already kind of gone over typing and stats alone. This is a good Pokemon. Now, Air Cutter payback combo versus like double Sky Attack or Sky Attack Iron Head, which we used before. This is one matchup that even though I boosted, I believe twice with Air Cutter, I still lost. And this has always been my problem with this Pokemon. So I lose it, it's just close, 1 HP, but I still lose despite getting Air Cutter off multiple times and boosting it multiple times. And the problem, in my opinion, is you do not have the fast move pressure with Sand Attack, a non-stab Sand Attack, especially in the Ultra League, where everything's so bulky. And Air Cutter is not a good damage per energy move and not a good damage move. And you can probably get by with it in the Great League, spamming some Air Cutters. But when your opponent's Pokemon resists the payback, especially in the Ultra League, you need to throw like 4 or 5 Air Cutters and like hope you boost through multiple times. Now it has a 30% chance of boosting, so it seems like you get it at a fairly okay pace because 30% is like a decent chance of getting the boost. So, you know, you can kind of come with there, but I just don't like it when you go against a Pokemon that you just payback's resisted because it just feels like it's an instant loss. I also went against like you'll see down on health and stuff. But I went against a Togekiss, and that Aura Sphere that's coming at 10s that hit neutral to you are really chipping, where Air Cutters are kind of just like, eh. So, I don't know. I know it's strong. Is it worth building up? Yeah, it's still like a very, very strong Pokemon. But it's one of those where you're going to notice it's going to have problems against some better Pokemon. Okay, still running an ABB style team here to be met with Drapion, which means Moonblast will be neutral because it's half dark, half poison, and these crunches are going to hurt and add up. So Cress was an interesting one for a while. Cress was a top-ranked Ultra League Pokemon for, like, I was going to say seasons, but years. So seasons upon seasons, Cress was like a top 15 Pokemon in the Ultra League with Psycho Cut. And then it dropped off substantially. And there's a few reasons it dropped off substantially. The first one is there was a lot more steals, right? You got your Corviknights coming in now, but we had Registeel forever, Galarian Stunfisk you can get to a level 50. with it. Kabalion is half fighting, but that is a steal as well. So you suddenly had a lot of just steals showing up. At the same time, so that steals resists all your moves. Grass not resisted, Moonblast resisted, Confusion resisted. On top of that, you have all your weaknesses. Now, Bug's a recent addition, so I'm not too worried about Bug. But Ghost and Dark have been meta, especially in the Ultra League for a while now. You got everything from Jellicent and Koffagrigus and now Runerigus and Galarian Moltres is showing up in the Ultra League a lot. I went against a couple of those, and Mandibuzz was here. So it's just that the meta evolved enough to have those typings, and not only have those typings more meta, just like more Pokemon that were just available to everyone to use. So Crest kind of fell down. And that's kind of when I started using Mewtwo, because at the same time you had fighters and you had things that were weak to Psychic, like some poisons, but you needed that coverage for some of the other weaknesses. And that's why I kind of like Mewtwo, because Mewtwo has that dynamic punch that can hit steals and hit darks. So that's why I started using Mewtwo. So obviously with Mewtwo running Confusion, and I always feel bad showcasing this because every Pokemon comes back except Armored Mewtwo. Armored Mewtwo was out once when the movie was out, and it has not been back since. So very tricky to get. So Armored Mewtwo, very bulky compared to the other Mewtwo, the regular Mewtwo. And you're just running it with Confusion. So you always run it with Confusion. Confusion is buffed. You do feel the buff, quite honestly, on these Confusion users. The Confusions, especially on the Mewtwo, felt like they did pretty well. Now again, it's an Armored Mewtwo, so it's not the hardest hitting Pokemon, but you have that Psy Strike too that will start adding up. Now, something else that got buffed here is Regidrago. So these Dragon Energies are 120 damage move. So they are chipping at quite a rate here. So I'm just going to get outpaced, right? So even though Psy Strike is not like the slowest to get to, 16 and then 12s, you're just going to get outpaced to the 12, 12, 12, 12 with a 120 damage move. So I'm shielding up one to try and get out the second move off, but even so, I'm going to be losing switch here. So Mewtwo, obviously just better with Confusion. Cress is an interesting one. I do think Cress is better, and you can play with it in the Great League or Ultra League. I don't think it has a ton of play in the Great League. I think it just has more play in the Ultra League just because its ball comes through, and then again, there's just too many things in the Great League that can beat this. A lot more bugs in the Great League too. It seems like the Confusion users that you are potentially using are not attack heavy, right? Shadow Drafrig aside, it's what? Armored Mewtwo, Cress, Hypno, right? It's a lot of lower attack, higher defense, and stamina. So when you're doing Confusion damage, which is not let me look up the stats on Confusion just so I know for sure what the damage per energy is here and the energy per turn. 4 and 4. Okay. No, 4 and 3.5. That makes more sense. So you have a 4 damage move with a 3.5 energy per turn. And that in itself is not the worst. Actually, it's quite good. It's the exact same damage and energy as Sucker Punch. So it's a Sucker Punch, damage energy, and Bullet Punch, now 4 and 3.5. Of course, there's a couple differences. One is those are 2-turn moves, right? So it's way, way easier to use a 2-turn move than it is to use a 4-turn move. So having a 4-turn move is always, you always want that higher energy and damage because of how tricky they are to use in terms of like timing, right? Especially when you go against here, 3 versus 4. So they get out Galarian Moltres, I have to get in here to Corviknight. But if you're in like a 3 versus 4 turn move, your ideal is you can throw 2 and then a charge move if you have it, right? Because that'd be 8 versus 9. But let's say all of a sudden you don't have the charge move yet. You either have to like over farm, and so you then reset on the count so that you can do 2 again, or the next time for optimal timing would be against a 3 would be 5. Yeah, 5 versus 7. So you'd have to throw 5 confusions to get to 20 versus their 7 3 turns to get to 21 for optimizing. So whenever you use like a 4 or 5 turn move, it's just tougher on optimization. It's easier to be caught on. Just a lot of negatives that are associated with 4 turn moves. Stats are there for it. When you get these lower attack Pokemon, well, Dark double resist Psycho, so this is a bad example, but when you get a lower attack Pokemon, that 4 damage, you're not gonna feel, you don't feel that 4 damage the way you would feel like a bullet punch on Shadow Scizor or a sucker punch even on like a Ferret or something. It just like these Pokemon just don't feel like they're hitting as hard. But as you can see just by the visual damage, and you got to remember you're an Ultra League here, it does add up. So stats alone, 4 and 3.5, we take with Confusion. I don't know about Cress, and it's, again, I can't tell if I don't know about Cress because of I would assume just based on 100%, I think it just makes sense on the stats alone. But I guess it's how you want to play it. So with Same Type Attack bonus, 3.5 energy per turn, 4.8 damage per turn. If you use Psycho Cut, 4.5 energy, so quick charging, but only 1.8 damage. So if you were using Psycho Cut, you're getting to the Grass Knots in 12, 12, 10, 12, and the Moonblast in 14, 14, 12, 14. So now the difference is, actually, I mean, you could probably just run the Sims, but the main argument is going to be if your confusion damage does enough that it only takes 2 turns out, that is more valuable than running a Cress with Psycho Cut, where you'd still need to throw 3, maybe 4 moves. That's essentially what the Sims say. 26 and 25 for a 502 average versus 22 and 29 for a 465 average. You pick up Charizard for Shadow for Alligator, Gyarados, Venusaur, and Galarian Weezing. Because you're now adding, well, the last two make sense. You're just adding a lot of confusion damage on just poison Pokemon. But I guess it's that same thing with the other Pokemon. You're just putting on a lot of confusion damage that one charge move is going to take them out. And Charizard, both your moves are resisted, so having a Psycho Cut does nothing for you there. So that makes sense. So it looks like as long as, my guess is, let me just look at all the numbers here. My first guess about this Pokemon, and there's Empoleon, so that's just confirming my guess. There's Greninja, so that's confirming my guess as well. Yeah. Every other one, you should be up there. Down here against Steelix. Yeah, okay. This is a very easy analysis. Cresselia plays better against 80% of the meta. The damage from confusion and the not too bad energy puts a lot of pressure on some, not a lot of pressure, but puts some damage on the health that allows you to just kind of take it out with a couple moves. Whereas if you use Psycho Cut, it's no fast move damage pressure. You're going to need 3, sometimes 4 moves to take it out. It's just not worth it for 80% of the Pokemon. Here's where it is worth it. The Darks and the Steels. And it's basically everything where confusion is resisted. And this is just an obvious one. If confusion is resisted and you're not getting to your charge moves fast enough, you're just in a terrible situation. But if you're against, like, say, a Dark or a Steel is a bad example, but you're still actually picking up, like, your average is worse than the Steels here. But if you're against Darks or something and you just had a Psycho Cut, you can actually just start spamming Moonblast at 14, 14, and 12 here. Whereas in this one, it would take, 20, 16, 16, right? So you're essentially getting off 3 Moonblasts for every 2 with confusion, right? So in the end, is Crest better with confusion? Yes. But it's going to be worse in the scenarios where confusion is just resisted, but better in pretty much every other scenario where confusion is not resisted. Armor Mewtwo, same thing. Confusion was always just a good move. With it, that's the only move you kind of ran with it. So now just having that you're able to just hit harder works. And then Corviknight, like I mentioned, strong, yes. Worth building, yes. Gonna have problems with Pokemon that resist the payback because limited to Air Cutter, especially in the Ultra League, is just not going to cut it most of the time. So that's maybe on the hype of the Ultra League. We'll probably go back to... Actually, I don't even know how many more videos we're going to do. We'll see. There is a community day Sunday. So tomorrow we're going to do the community analysis because this move is potentially very dangerous on Florges because it's a move that guarantees to lower your opponent's attack while you have a very, very fast charging Fairy Wind fast move. So you're now just lowering your opponent's attack at a crazy speed, right? So it's not like, so it's like a mirror clone right now of like Icy Wind. But, you know, most of the Icy Wind users are like Dugong and stuff, which is a slower charging fast move. But now you have a quick charging fast move. So now you're just like really, really spamming moves that chip. Not amazing, but still do chip damage while lowering your opponent's attack. So it actually changes quite a lot of matchups. So we'll take a look at that this weekend. And I believe there is another event on like Tuesday starting up with like a new Pokemon. So I want to check that out, an event. So between that, the weekend, where I don't post as many videos, I said I was going to cut back on videos. And I probably will once we get into like, I still think I'm going to probably push out a decent amount of videos these first few weeks. You know, next week is a Master League and Willpower Cup. Oh, it's the Mega Edition of Master League already next week? Ooh. That can kind of be interesting. So you have Willpower, which I think is probably like a 2 or 3 typing. 3. Fighting, Psychic, and Dark. So it's going to be it's going to be a bad cup. And then a Mega Edition, which could be kind of fun. Maybe we'll showcase a bit more of those, but I can see myself not putting out as many videos that week as I normally do. Are the Mega rankings out yet? They are. Mega Gyarados. That's accessible. Mega Gyarados is accessible. Primal Groudon with the XLs, probably not as much. Mega Latias and Latios are up there. Yeah, right, with the new Dragon Breath rework. And Salamence. Salamence, you know, we've had community for. That is actually probably accessible. So Mega Gyarados, Mega Salamence, Mega Rayquaza, you know, even I will say that one's more accessible. Like there's some, you know, then the Primal Groudon, you can probably argue that's more accessible too. I don't know. But there's also Garchomp on here. And then it's your then Zacian's still pretty high. Origin Form Dialga is still pretty high. Mega Gardevoir, yeah, that's accessible. So you know what? This is kind of interesting. Mega Swampert and Mega Aggron. The only problem is, right, with the Mega Master League, this is the problem. It looks more accessible. It looks more accessible because you have Mega Gyarados you can get. You know, Rayquaza a lot of people have because it was the Go Fest. So a lot of people have those. Mega Salamence had a community day way long ago, plus a couple like other events along the way. You probably have the XLs for that. And you probably have the XLs for Garchomp because Garchomp had a community day and it was definitely easy to get the XLs there. So then you're stuck like, yeah, I've got like 4 or 5 or 6 Pokemon I can use here. And then you realize you can only use 1 Mega at a time. You're not bringing 3 Megas in unless they have that cheat that they had the last time Mega Master. Was it last time Mega Master was on or a couple times ago? Anyways, you have to like purposely cheat, but someone had like 2 phones going on and had Megas on their different phones. So when they went in, they were using 2 Megas, something like that. But if the game is working as planned, you're only allowed to use 1 Mega because you can only power up 1 Mega at a time, right? So yes, you may have a strong Mega or like more accessible Mega Pokemon like Mega Gyarados, number 1 ranked Pokemon. Probably most people have a Mega Gyarados that they can power up here. You still need 2 other level 50 XL Pokemon to play. So you still need the Crown Sword Zacian and you still need the Origin Form Dialga and the Origin Form Palkia, Origin Form Palkia and Dialga and Kyurem's, like Kyurem Whites and stuff like that. So you still need all these Pokemon to be able to play Master League Mega. So although it seems more accessible because you at least have probably 1 top Pokemon in your decks as a Mega, I don't know if you're going to have more than that. So between that and Willpower Cup, maybe we'll slow down next week. Then we have Great League, and then Great League for a couple weeks, which is nice. 24th, right when. Okay, so that is basically it. So that's my analysis with these Pokemon. If you're going to use a confusion user that already has confusion, it is better. My camera is frozen just in the perfect Dan pose, and my camera's off now. Okay. If you're going to use the confusion users that are previously confusion users, they're just better. I think Crest is better with confusion for 80% of the matchups. Whether you actually need to use Crest in the Ultra League, again, I wouldn't use both of them. Can you use Crest in the Ultra League? Yeah, I think it's more usable now than it is before, but the weaknesses still remain. Not having anything to throw at steals, and just like Darks and Ghosts, you gotta just cover those weaknesses. Don't put two Psychic Pokemon on the same team. Anyways, that is it. Hope you have a good weekend. Stay tuned tomorrow for the analysis on the Florges or Flabebe Community Day, and I will see you guys on the next one.